The champagne glass trembles first. A soft clink crystal against tray, then the metallic crash of a service cart slamming into a bulkhead. The cabin lights flicker once, twice. In seat 2A first class, a woman named Ivy Malone closes her eyes. She's 34, wearing a faded gray hoodie and jeans worn thin at the knees. Her hair is pulled back in a low, careless knot. No makeup, no jewelry, no pretense. Across the aisle, Grant Hartwell, 52 Tom Ford suit Rolex Daytona, catching the overhead light, leans toward his attorney friend Colton Pierce. "Look at her," Grant says loud enough to carry. "Economy outfit in first class. Probably an upgrade mistake." Colton smirks. "Or someone who doesn't understand what $8,000 buys." Ivy doesn't open her eyes, but her right hand resting on the armrest taps a slow rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 120 beats per minute. Pre-flight checklist tempo. The intercom chimes. "Ladies and gentlemen, please fasten your seatbelts. We're expecting moderate turbulence ahead." Around her, passengers fumble with straps. Ivy's hand moves without hesitation across her lap, pulling the belt snug, then checking the secondary slack. A 5-point harness instinct in a 3-point world. She doesn't look at the safety card. Grant leans back satisfied. "In 20 minutes, he murmurs to Colton, she'll be crying for economy." The Boeing 777 climbs through 32,000 feet. First class hums with quiet wealth, leather seats, soft lighting the rustle of Wall Street journals and iPads in Mont Blanc cases. Ivy pulls out a battered laptop. No logo, no stickers. The hinge is held together with electrical tape. 2 rows back, Claudette Voss, owner of a chain of high-end spas, platinum blonde hair, swept into a chignon, watches with thinly veiled disgust. First-class standards are falling. She announces to no one in particular, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Her husband nods absently, eyes on his phone. Grant Hartwell turns in his seat. "It's the airlines. They'll upgrade anyone these days. Loyalty programs, vouchers, no discretion." Ivy opens a document on her screen. Lines of text. Nothing flashy. She doesn't glance up. A flight attendant, Serenity Blake, early 30s, crisp uniform name tag, gleaming approaches with a tray of sparkling water and warm towels. "Ma'am," she offers, voice kind. Ivy takes the water with a quiet thank you. As she lifts the glass to her lips, her hand trembles. Just slightly. A microquake that lasts half a second. Across the aisle, Easton Reed, 32, startup founder, noise-canceling headphones around his neck like a status symbol catches it. He nudges the passenger beside him. "Nervous flyer," he says, grinning. "Maybe she should have stayed in coach." The passenger chuckles. Ivy sets the glass down carefully. No reaction. But her left hand moves to her wrist fingers, brushing over a faint, scar-thin surgical, barely visible under the cabin light. The plane shudders. Not violent, but enough to rattle the overhead bins. Claudette gasps. "Oh my God!" Around the cabin, passengers stiffen. A child whimpers in row 6. Ivy doesn't flinch. Instead, her eyes move methodical automatic counting rows to the nearest emergency exit. Row 2 to the front, left door 4 rows. To the overwing exit 10. Her lips don't move, but in her mind the numbers lock in like coordinates on a HUD. The turbulence increases. The seatbelt sign chimes again unnecessarily. Grant grips his armrest. Ivy adjusts her posture. Spine straight. Feet flat on the floor, shoulder width apart. Hands relaxed on the armrests. Fingers loose, but ready. Pilot brace position. She doesn't know she's doing it. Muscle memory etched in so deep it's autonomic. Serenity Blake, moving through the cabin to check seatbelts, pauses when she sees Ivy's posture. Something about it feels deliberate, trained, but she says nothing. Grant, meanwhile, has shifted his attention back to Colton. "I flew private to Monaco last month. Gulfstream G650. Buttery smooth even through the Alps." "Hell of a machine," Colton agrees. Exactly. And the crew professionals. Not like commercial. You get what you pay for. He glances at Ivy again, as if to underscore the point. Ivy's gaze drifts upward, just for a second. She scans the overhead panel lights, air vents call buttons. Then, almost imperceptibly, her eyes settle on a small green indicator near the galley bulkhead. Hydraulic system status. All green. Normal pressure. She looks away. No one notices. The turbulence eases. The plane steadies. Passengers exhale some nervous laughter rippling through the rows. Easton Reed pulls his headphones back on, scrolling through a playlist. Claudette dabs her temples with a towel. I swear these flights get worse every year. Grant Hartwell signals for another drink, and Ivy Malone opens her laptop again, fingers resting on the keys. She doesn't type, just waits. 10 minutes later, the turbulence returns. This time, it's not a shudder. It's a lurch hard enough to send a service cart skidding down the aisle until Serenity catches it with both hands. The seatbelt sign flashes red. The chime repeats urgent now. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened. In first class, nervous energy ripples through the cabin. A businessman across from Ivy closes his laptop. A woman clutches her husband's hand. Grant Hartwell stands. Serenity is halfway down the aisle when she sees him. Sir, please return to your seat. I need to speak with you, Grant says, ignoring the request. His voice carries the tone of a man used to being obeyed. Serenity approaches professional, but firm. Sir, the seatbelt sign is on. I can't. She's making my wife uncomfortable. Grant jerks his head toward Ivy. This is unacceptable. We paid $8,000 for these seats. I want her moved. Serenity blinks. I'm sorry, sir, but all passengers have assigned seats. I can't just... Then upgrade her. Grant interrupts. To economy, where she belongs. Behind him, Colton Pierce leans back in his seat, watching with faint amusement. Claudette Voss nods from her row. He's right. Standards matter. Serenity's jaw tightens, but her voice stays calm. Sir, I understand your concern, but I'm not authorized to reassign seating mid-flight. If you have a complaint, I can provide you with the appropriate contact information. I'll file a complaint, Grant snaps, and you'll be hearing from my lawyer. Sir, do you know who I am? Serenity doesn't answer. She's heard that question 100 times. Grant pulls out his phone as if to make a call right there. The plane dips again, harder this time, and he stumbles slightly, grabbing the nearest seat for balance. Ivy, still seated, hasn't moved, hasn't spoken, but her eyes have shifted. Not to Grant, not to Serenity, to the overhead panel again. This time, she's watching something specific. A small amber light near the galley, the hydraulic caution indicator. It flickers. Once, then stays green. Temporary fluctuation. Normal in turbulence, but she's tracking it. Grant steadies himself, glaring at Serenity. I expect this resolved. Now. Sir, I'll do everything I can. But right now, I need you to return to your seat for your own safety. For a moment, Grant considers pushing further. Then the plane drops again, a stomach-lifting jolt, and even he reaches for the nearest armrest. Fine, he mutters, but this isn't over. He returns to 3C, sinking into the leather with the air of a man who's just won a moral victory. Serenity exhales slowly, then continues down the aisle, checking passengers. When she reaches Ivy, she pauses. Ma'am, are you all right? Ivy looks up. Her expression is calm, unshaken. I'm fine, she says quietly. Thank you. Serenity nods and moves on, but something in Ivy's tone, steady, controlled, certain lingers in her mind. The turbulence doesn't ease. If anything, it builds. The plane rocks side to side, a slow, uneasy yaw that sends carry-ons shifting in the overhead bins. Rain hammers the fuselage in sudden bursts, loud as gravel on sheet metal. Then ding-dong, not the gentle chime of a seatbelt sign. The hard, double-tone alert from the cockpit. Urgent. Passengers freeze. The cockpit door opens. Owen Fletcher steps out. 27 years old first officer's stripes on his shoulders, face pale as snow. His hands are shaking. "Ladies and gentlemen," he says, voice cracking, "Captain Brennan is experiencing a medical emergency." The cabin goes silent. "We need anyone with advanced aviation experience, military or test pilot background to identify themselves immediately." No one moves. Owen's eyes sweep the rows, desperate. "Please, if anyone has combat flight experience, we need you now." 5 seconds pass. Then Grant Hartwell stands. "I've flown in corporate jets for years," he announces, voice steady and confident. "I'll help." Owen's gaze snaps to him. "Sir, I appreciate that, but I need someone with... I've logged over 200 hours as a passenger in Gulfstreams and Challengers." Grant continues stepping into the aisle. "I know the procedures. I've watched crews handle emergencies. I can assist." Colton Pierce nods from his seat. He's being modest. Grant's flown with some of the best private pilots in the world. Owen hesitates. His training screams at him that this isn't right, but panic is louder. "Sir, have you ever actually operated?" "I'll do what needs to be done," Grant cuts in. "Unless you'd rather handle this alone." Before Owen can respond, a voice rises from the back of the cabin row 23 economy. "Son," an older man stands, 68 gray hair, cropped short shoulders still square despite his age. "Ronan Sullivan, retired Air Force maintenance engineer." "You need someone with military time," Ronan says, voice firm. "Not a businessman who sat in a leather seat and drank scotch at 40,000 feet. Grant whirls. "And you think you're qualified, you're sitting in economy." "I worked on fighters for 30 years, Ronan replies evenly. "I know the difference between a passenger and a pilot." Grant's face reddens. "This is absurd." "Owen, I'm offering real help here. Don't let some in seat 2A, Ivy Malone is still, but her lips move, barely audible. Squawk 7700, emergency descent to 10,000. No one hears her. Her fingers tap the armrest again. 123, emergency checklist rhythm. Owen is frozen between Grant and Ronan, paralyzed by indecision. Then Ivy stands. The movement is smooth, deliberate, no hesitation. She steps into the aisle. "First officer," she says, voice calm and clear, "I can assist." The cabin turns. Grant stares. Colton's mouth opens slightly. Claudette Voss actually laughs, a sharp, disbelieving sound. Owen looks at her, hope and doubt tangled in his expression. "Ma'am," he begins carefully, "do you have flight experience?" "Yes." "Military?" "Yes." Easton Reed leans forward, grinning. "You've got to be kidding me." Grant steps between Ivy and Owen. "Absolutely not. Owen, listen to me. You're about to make a catastrophic mistake. You don't know who she is. She could be lying. She could be..." "I'm not lying," Ivy says quietly. "Prove it," Grant snaps. Ivy meets his eyes. No anger, no defensiveness, just certainty. She turns back to Owen. "What's your current fuel state?" Owen blinks. 11,000 pounds. Altitude, 38,000 feet. Airspeed, 480 knots. Weather ahead, severe convective activity, wind shear warnings. We're trying to deviate, but you need to declare pan-pan at minimum," Ivy says. "Possibly Mayday, depending on the captain's condition." "What are his symptoms?" Owen swallows. "Unconscious, pulse weak, sweating. Dr. Kane, one of the passengers, thinks it might be cardiac." Ivy nods once. "Get the AED and oxygen. Check his airway first. Don't tilt his head if there's any chance of spinal involvement." Owen stares at her. So does everyone else. Because what she just said wasn't a guess. It was protocol, medical, aviation, emergency response, word perfect. If you think Ivy's about to prove everyone wrong, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens when prejudice meets expertise at 38,000 feet. Grant Hartwell's laugh is sharp and cold. You... He turns to Owen, then back to Ivy. What are you, a flight simulator hobbyist? You think you can just walk into a cockpit and... Ivy doesn't answer. She steps past him, moving toward the cockpit door. Owen shifts his weight, uncertainty written across his face. Ma'am, I appreciate the offer, but I need to verify. Check current altitude, airspeed, and fuel state. Ivy says, her tone flat and businesslike. I'll assess Captain Brennan. Grant moves into her path, blocking the narrow aisle with his body. This is insane. Owen, listen to me. You're endangering all of us. She doesn't even look like... Ivy stops, looks him in the eye. Current conditions, she says, cutting through his sentence like a scalpel. 38,000 feet, 480 knots. Crosswinds 110 knots, gusting 140. You need to declare pan-pan at minimum, possibly Mayday, depending on the captain's vitals. Owen's mouth falls open. Ivy turns to Serenity, who's frozen halfway down the aisle. Get the AED and oxygen. Check his airway first. Don't tilt his head if there's any suspicion of spinal injury. Serenity blinks once, then nods and moves toward the forward galley. Owen stares at Ivy. How did you... I'm wasting time, Ivy says quietly. Let me work. For a moment, Owen hesitates. Then he nods and steps aside. But Grant isn't done. He spins toward Colton Pierce. Record this, he hisses. Get everything. We're going to sue this airline into the ground. Colton pulls out his phone thumb, hovering over the camera app. Grant raises his voice, projecting to the entire first-class cabin. Does anyone else feel unsafe right now? We're about to trust our lives to... He gestures at Ivy with open disdain. This. Claudette Voss stands gripping the seat in front of her. I do. I absolutely do. This is outrageous. A man in row 5 shifts uncomfortably. I mean, shouldn't we wait for, actual help? A woman beside him nods. Can't they vector in another pilot or something? Easton Reed pulls off his headphones. This is what happens when airlines prioritize optics over safety. Unbelievable. Murmurs ripple through the cabin. Half the passengers look confused. The other half looks scared. Ivy doesn't react. She's already at the cockpit door. Owen follows, fumbling with the keypad. His hands shake as he enters the code. The door clicks open. Inside the cockpit is chaos. Captain Brennan, mid-50s, silver-haired, normally unshakable, is slumped in the left seat head, lolling to one side. His face is slick with sweat. His breathing is shallow and ragged. The autopilot is engaged, but the control column shudders under the strain of the weather. The artificial horizon tilts left then right as the plane fights crosswinds that shouldn't exist at this altitude. Rain lashes the windshield in sheets. Lightning flashes somewhere in the murk ahead. Owen slides into the right seat, gripping the controls like they might disappear. Ivy steps in behind him, calm and silent. She scans the overhead panel. Fuel flow normal, hydraulics green, electrical stable. Her eyes drop to the primary flight display. Airspeed altitude heading all nominal, but the turbulence is worse than Owen's letting on. The plane is getting hammered. Behind her, Serenity arrives with the AED kit and a portable oxygen bottle. Then another voice. I'm a cardiologist. A woman steps through the door, late 40s, composed, wearing a simple blouse and slacks. Dr. Felicity Kane. I was in economy, she says. I heard the call. Let me handle the medical side. Ivy glances at her, then nods. He's all yours, Doctor. Dr. Kane kneels beside the captain's seat, fingers already on his wrist, checking his pulse. Pulse is 140, thready, diaphoretic, possible MI. Myocardial infarction, Ivy says quietly. Dr. Kane looks up surprised. You know medical terminology? Enough. Owen's voice cracks. Ma'am, He looks at Ivy. With respect, I've never flown solo in weather like this. And you? No offense, but I need to see credentials, a license, something. Before Ivy can answer, the cockpit door slams open again. Grant Hartwell steps in. Colton Pierce is right behind him. Easton Reed squeezes in, last phone still raised. Owen, Grant says, voice hard. I'm calling air traffic control myself. We need a real pilot vectored and not some imposter. Sir, you can't be in here, Owen begins. I'm a paying passenger on an aircraft in distress, Grant snaps. I have every right to ensure my safety. Now get her out of here before she kills us all. Ivy doesn't move. She's focused on the autopilot panel fingers hovering over the mode selector. She adjusts the altitude hold, fine-tuning the vertical speed to compensate for the wind shear. As she does, the cockpit light catches her right hand. The scar on her wrist. Thin, surgical, old, and below it on the pad of her thumb, a thick callus, rough discolored, worn into the skin like a groove. Ronan Sullivan is standing just outside the cockpit door, watching through the gap. He sees it. His eyes narrow. He leans toward Dr. Kane, voice low. That hand position, I've seen it before. Dr. Kane glances up from the captain. What? Throttle grip calluses, Ronan murmurs. F-16 pilots get them. Maybe F-22. You don't get marks like that from flying Cessnas. Dr. Kane's gaze shifts to Ivy's hand. But Grant doesn't hear. He's too busy shouting. Owen, I'm giving you one chance. Remove this woman from the cockpit, or I swear to God, I'll have your license pulled. Ivy finally speaks. You're wasting oxygen, she says, not looking at him. And time we don't have. Grant's face flushes red. Ivy moves to the center console eyes, scanning the weather radar display. It's a mess. Bands of red and magenta severe convective cells stretch across their flight path like walls. The radar is painting returns 40 miles ahead, but there's interference, jagged lines, static bursts. Owen, Ivy says, your radar's being jammed by lightning. You're flying blind. Owen nods throat tight. I know. I've been trying to deviate, but ATC keeps vectoring us back into it. Ivy taps the screen. Because they can't see what you're seeing. Their ground radar doesn't pick up wind shear or microbursts. You need to declare an emergency and take control of your own routing. Owen hesitates. I've never done that before. Then now's the time to learn. Grant slams his hand on the back of Owen's seat. Do not listen to her. Owen, I am begging you. We need professionals. Ivy ignores him. She picks up the radio handset. Who's your controlling agency? Owen swallows. Boston Center. Ivy keys the mic. Boston Center Transatlantic 447 requesting priority handling. We have a pilot incapacitation and are encountering severe weather. Request immediate vector to nearest suitable alternate. A pause. Then a calm professional voice crackles through the speaker. Transatlantic 447 Boston Center. Copy pilot incapacitation. Say souls on board and fuel remaining. Owen leans forward. 312 souls. Fuel is 11,000 pounds. 447, nearest suitable alternate, is Dover Air Force Base, 150 miles northeast. Advise if you require military coordination. Ivy's jaw tightens. Dover AFB. Military field. That's not a diversion. That's a last resort. She keys the mic again. Center 447. Be advised all East Coast commercial airports are closed due to icing. Affirmative 447. Severe icing reported from flight level 200 down to the surface. Dover is your only option within fuel range. Owen's hands are shaking. Dover requires military clearance. We're a civilian aircraft. They won't just let us. They will if we declare Mayday, Ivy says. Grant steps forward. Absolutely not. We are not declaring anything. We wait for another pilot to be vectored in, someone qualified. There's no time, Owen says, voice rising. Sir, we're already burning into reserve fuel. Then we divert to the nearest commercial airport. They're all closed. Then we wait for them to open. Ivy sets the handset down. She pulls a notepad from the side pocket of the first officer's seat and starts writing. Numbers, angles, fuel calculations, descent profile for a single engine approach, emergency checklist for engine failure in icing conditions. No one's asked her to do this, but she's doing it anyway. Dr. Kane glances over from where she's monitoring Captain Brennan. She sees the notepad, sees the precision of the handwriting block letters, abbreviations, technical shorthand. "Who are you?" she asks quietly. Ivy doesn't answer. Colton Pierce zooms in with his phone camera, recording the notepad. Easton Reed leans in. What is she writing? Owen, do you even know what she's doing? Owen looks at the notes. His eyes widen. That's a non-standard descent procedure. Exactly, Grant says, triumphant. Non-standard, unauthorized, dangerous. Ivy finishes writing and sets the pen down. It's also, she says evenly, the only way you're getting this plane on the ground with one engine and no visibility. The cockpit goes silent. Grant stares at her. What did you just say? Ivy meets his eyes. You heard me. The turbulence intensifies. The plane lurches hard to the left. The control column jerks in Owen's hands. He fights it, sweat beading on his forehead. Jesus, he mutters. Dr. Kane braces herself against the captain's seat. His pulse is spiking again. 150. He needs a hospital. We all need a hospital. Claudette Voss shouts from the cabin. If we keep listening to her. Ivy ignores the noise. She's watching the radar again. The interference is getting worse. Entire sections of the display are blanked out by static. She taps the screen. Owen, your weather radar is compromised. You're not going to see the cells until you're inside them. I know, Owen says, voice strained. I'm trying to... A loud beep cuts him off. Master caution. The overhead panel lights up amber. Owen's eyes snap to the engine instruments. Ice accretion on the left engine. Anti-ice is on, but it's not keeping up. Ivy leans over his shoulder. Increase throttle on number 1. Keep the core temp high enough to shed the ice. Owen does it. The engine RPM climbs. The warning light flickers, then goes out. Good, Ivy says. Now check your fuel totalizer. How much reserve do we actually have? Owen scans the fuel panel. His face goes pale. 45 minutes. Maybe less if we have to hold. We're not holding, Ivy says. We're going direct to Dover. Grant steps between them. You are not making that decision. Someone has to. Then let Owen make it. He's the pilot. Ivy turns to Owen. Do you know how to fly a coupled ILS approach in severe icing with a single engine configuration? Owen opens his mouth, closes it. No, he admits. Then you need me. Or, Grant interjects, we wait for ATC to send help. There is no help, Ivy says, voice flat. You heard Center. Every airport is closed. Dover is it. And we have 45 minutes of fuel to cover 150 miles in a headwind. That's cutting it close, even without an approach and landing. Easton Reed holds up his phone. I'm recording all of this. If anything happens, the FAA will see exactly who was responsible. Ivy doesn't flinch. She picks up the notepad again and writes another line. Plan B, single-engine spiral descent through storm eye. Owen sees it. His breath catches. You can't be serious. I am. That's a fighter maneuver. This is a 777. Physics doesn't care what kind of plane it is. Grant's voice rises. Owen, do not let her touch those controls. I will have you arrested the second we land. Owen looks at Ivy, then at the fuel gauge, then at the radar screen full of static. Ma'am, he says quietly, I don't even know your name. Ivy hesitates. Then for the first time, she offers something real. Malone, she says. Ivy Malone. Ronan Sullivan, still watching from the doorway, closes his eyes. He knows that name. The plane drops. Not a gentle descent. A violent stomach-lifting plunge as the autopilot struggles to hold altitude against a downdraft. Screams erupt from the cabin. A service cart breaks loose, slamming into a bulkhead with a metallic crash. Owen's hands fly to the controls. Autopilot's fighting it. Disconnect, Ivy says. Now. But I hand fly. You'll avoid overstressing the airframe. Owen hesitates for half a second, then reaches up and punches the autopilot disconnect button. The control column goes live in his hands. The plane yaws hard right. Owen pulls back, trying to level the wings. Easy, Ivy says, voice steady. Reduce speed to turbulence penetration, 280 knots. Angle of attack no more than 3 degrees. Owen adjusts the throttle. Eases the nose down. The airspeed bleeds off. 290, 285, 280. The buffeting smooths. Not gone, but manageable. The plane stops fighting him. Owen exhales, shaking. Oh my God. Dr. Kane looks up from Captain Brennan. His pulse is stabilizing. 120. Whatever just happened, it worked. From the cabin, Ronan Sullivan's voice carries through the open cockpit door. That's military turbulence procedure. He says loud enough for everyone to hear. Speed reduction, controlled descent, minimal input. Who the hell is she? Grant stands frozen, his confidence cracking. Colton Pierce has stopped recording. He's staring at Ivy with an expression that's no longer smug. It's uncertain. Claudette Voss says nothing. Easton Reed lowers his phone. Ivy doesn't acknowledge any of it. She's already scanning the panel again, checking engine temps, fuel flow, electrical systems. Owen looks at her. Something like awe creeping into his fear. How did you know that would work? Because I've done it before, Ivy says simply. Grant finds his voice. Lucky guess. Any competent pilot could have... No, Owen interrupts. No, sir. That wasn't luck. That was precision. Grant's mouth snaps shut. Ivy picks up the radio again. Boston Center 447. Request priority, handling to Dover AFB. We're hand flying due to autopilot limitations and severe turbulence. 447 Boston Center. Copy, hand flying. You are cleared direct Dover. Descend and maintain flight level 240. Expect further descent in 10 miles. Cleared direct Dover descend and maintain 240 447. Ivy hangs up the handset. She looks at Owen. You're doing fine, she says. Keep your scan moving. Don't fixate. Owen nods, jaw set. For the first time since Captain Brennan collapsed, he feels like maybe they might survive this. Then the world ends. Master caution, master warning. Red lights flood the overhead panel. A buzzer screams through the cockpit, loud, relentless, primal. Owen's eyes go wide. Engine 2. Ivy's gaze snaps to the engine instruments. Number 2, N10. Oil pressure, 0. EGT dropping fast. Flame out, she says, voice tight. Ice ingestion. The core seized. Owen's hands are shaking so hard he can barely hold the controls. We just lost engine 2. Oh God, we just lost engine 2. The plane yaws hard to the right. The single remaining engine number 1 roars at max thrust, but it's not enough to compensate for the asymmetric drag. Owen fights the rudder, trying to keep the nose straight. Ivy, his voice breaks. I don't know how to fly single engine in weather like this. I don't... Trim it out, Ivy says. Rudder trim. Compensate for the yaw. Owen reaches for the trim wheel hands, fumbling. He overcorrects. The plane swings left. Too much, Ivy says. Back it off. Small inputs. Owen adjusts. The yaw stabilizes, but barely. The buzzer is still screaming. Ivy reaches up and silences the master warning. The lights stay red, but at least the noise stops. In the cabin, passengers are screaming. What was that sound? Are we crashing? A child is crying inconsolable. Grant Hartwell stumbles back into the cockpit. face white. What the hell just happened? Engine failure, Ivy says. Engine failure, Claudette Voss shrieks from behind him. We're going to die. We're all going to die. Easton Reed pushes forward. This is her fault. She distracted the crew when you let her near the controls, and now look what's happened. Grant points at Ivy, voice shaking with rage. Get her out. Get her out now. Sir, Owen begins. I said to get her out. Owen doesn't move. He's paralyzed, drowning in panic and indecision. Dr. Kane stands. Everyone needs to calm down. We still have one engine. We have one engine, Claudette screams. In a storm with no qualified pilot, Grant turns to the passengers crowding the galley. Does anyone else see what's happening here? They're letting an unqualified person near the controls, and now we've lost an engine. This is negligence. This is criminal. Colton Pierce raises his phone again, filming everything. Easton steps into the cockpit. Owen, I'm calling the FAA the second we land. If we land. Grant moves toward Ivy. You, out, now. Ivy doesn't move. Grant grabs her shoulder. She turns eyes cold. Touch me again, and you'll regret it. You're threatening me, Grant's voice cracks. Owen, she just threatened a passenger. Owen is shaking his head, lost. Sir, please, I need to focus. Then focus on getting her out of the cockpit. And Grant does it. He physically blocks Ivy from the instrument panel, using his body to wedge her away from the controls. Ivy steps back, jaw tight. Owen looks at her helpless. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I don't have the authority to... You're the pilot in command, Ivy says quietly. You have all the authority. And I'm telling him to remove you, Grant snaps. Unless you want to explain to 300 people why you killed them. Ivy's hands curl into fists. For a moment, she looks like she might say something, do something. Then she exhales and steps out of the cockpit. The door slams behind her. Ronan Sullivan is standing in the galley. He watches Ivy walk past her face, unreadable. He stands. Son, he says, voice cold and clear, cutting through the chaos. Owen looks at him. You just kicked out the only person on this plane who's flown single engine in combat. The cabin goes quiet. You'd better, Ronan continues, pray she forgives you. Ivy sinks into her seat, 2A first class, where this all started. Her hands are trembling, not from fear, from something deeper. A memory. Afghanistan. 2019. 2 engines out. Sandstorm. No visibility. Radio dead. She'd flown 40 minutes on fumes and willpower, and she'd brought everyone home. But right now, in this cabin, surrounded by people who see her as a threat instead of a solution, she feels the weight of every doubt, every dismissal, every second guess she's endured in 15 years of service. Her right hand shakes harder. PTSD flashback, the tremor she's fought to control for 3 years. She closes her eyes, breathes, counts. In the cockpit, Owen is falling apart. He keys the intercom voice, barely a whisper. Ma'am, if you can hear me, I need your help. I don't know how to do this. Ivy opens her eyes. Through the gap in the cockpit door, she can see the instruments, the fuel gauge, the single engine screaming at max thrust. 43 minutes of fuel, 150 miles to Dover, no margin for error. She stands. But before she can move, the cabin erupts again. Sit down, Claudette shouts. You've done enough. Grant blocks the aisle. If you take one step toward that cockpit, I will personally see to it that you never fly again. Ivy stops, and for the first time, doubt flickers in her eyes. Ivy just got kicked out of the cockpit with one engine down and no options left. What would you do in her position? Drop your thoughts below. Ivy doesn't argue. She doesn't shout, doesn't plead her case. She walks to the nearest cabin intercom panel, mounted on the galley wall just outside the cockpit door, and picks up the handset. Her voice is calm, controlled, the voice of someone who's done this 1,000 times before. Serenity, patch me through to the flight deck. Serenity Blake, standing near the forward galley, hesitates. She glances at Grant, then at Ivy. Then she presses the button. Go ahead, ma'am. Ivy keys the handset. First Officer Fletcher. This is Malone. Set flaps 5. Gear down at 180 knots. Begin descent at 1,500 feet per minute. I'll call vectors from here. In the cockpit, Owen freezes. He looks at the intercom speaker, then at the controls. Grant lunges for the handset. She's still giving orders. Owen ignore her. Okay, call. But Owen's hands are already moving. Flaps to 5. The hydraulic whine hums through the airframe as the trailing edge surfaces extend. Airspeed bleeds off. 190. 185. Gear down, Ivy's voice says through the speaker. Owen hesitates for half a second. Then he reaches for the gear lever and pulls it down. 3 heavy clunks reverberate through the fuselage as the landing gear locks into place. The drag increases immediately. The plane slows further. Descend 1,500 feet per minute, Ivy says. Pitch for -3 degrees. Owen eases the control column forward. The nose drops. The vertical speed indicator needle swings down. -1,000, -1,200, -1,500. The descent is smooth, controlled. The plane stops wallowing in the turbulence and settles into a steady glide. Grant's face is red. Owen, I'm ordering you to stop listening to her. You're the pilot in command. Act like it. Owen's voice cracks. Sir, with all due respect. He swallows hard. I'd rather trust her than crash. Grant steps back, stunned. Colton Pierce lowers his phone. For the first time, he's not recording. He's just watching. Claudette Voss is silent, gripping the back of a seat, knuckles white. Easton Reed sinks into the nearest chair, his earlier bravado gone. In the cabin, passengers are beginning to notice the change. The plane isn't shaking as much. The descent feels intentional. A woman in row 8 whispers to her husband. Is it just me, or does it feel like someone actually knows what they're doing now? Her husband nods slowly. Ronan Sullivan, still standing in the galley, watches Ivy through narrowed eyes. She's standing at the intercom, one hand on the handset, the other resting on the bulkhead. Her posture is perfect. Shoulders square, feet planted, like she's standing on a flight deck. He knows that stance. Doctor. Kane steps out of the cockpit, leaving Captain Brennan stable for the moment. She walks over to Ivy. How are you doing this? She asks quietly. Ivy doesn't look at her. Her eyes are fixed on the cockpit door, watching the instruments through the gap. Same way I've always done it, she says, one step at a time. Dr. Kane studies her. You've done this before, haven't you? Ivy doesn't answer. But the look in her eyes, steady, focused, unshakable, says everything. Ivy sets the intercom handset down and moves back to her seat 2A first class. She kneels beside her carry-on, a battered canvas duffel bag shoved under the seat in front of her. She unzips it and reaches inside, pulling out a small notepad, spiral-bound edges, worn pages filled with handwritten notes and diagrams. As she does, something falls out, a metallic clink on the floor. A coin. It rolls a few inches, wobbles, then settles flat on the carpet. Ronan Sullivan sees it first. He steps forward, bends down, and picks it up. It's heavy, solid brass, about the size of a silver dollar. On one side, a golden eagle wings spread talons gripping a banner. On the other, engraved text. Falcon 1, USAF 509th. Fighter Squadron, first and last out. Ronan's breath catches. He turns the coin over in his hand, fingers tracing the lettering. Falcon 1, he murmurs. His head snaps up. He looks at Ivy. You flew Operation Desert Shield. It's not a question. Ivy stands slowly. She glances at the coin in his hand, then meets his eyes. She nods. Once. No explanation. Dr. Kane steps closer, looking between them. What's Falcon 1? Ronan doesn't take his eyes off Ivy. It's a call sign. One of the most classified in the Air Force. Reserved for top-tier combat pilots. Black ops. High-risk missions. The kind of operations that don't make the news. He holds up the coin. If you have one of these, you're in the top 1%. And if you're Falcon 1, he pauses. You're a legend. Dr. Kane's eyes widen. She's military. Not just military, Ronan says. Elite. A few passengers nearby have started listening. The murmurs spread. Wait, she's a pilot. A real one. Why didn't she say anything? Claudette Voss steps forward, face pale. That could be fake. Anyone can buy a coin online. Ronan turns to her, expression hard. No, ma'am, you can't. Challenge coins are earned. And this one, he taps the engraving. This one isn't something you buy on eBay. Grant Hartwell is standing frozen, his confidence visibly cracking. She still should have identified herself properly, he stammers. We had a right to know. Ronan looks at him like he's dirt. She tried. You didn't listen. Easton Reed shifts uncomfortably. Okay, but even if she's military, that doesn't mean she's qualified to fly a 777. Physics is physics, Ronan says. And if she's flown combat, she's flown worse than this. Ivy takes the coin from Ronan's hand. Their eyes meet. Thank you, she says quietly. Ronan nods. Ma'am, if you're really Falcon 1, we're in the safest hands possible. Ivy slips the coin into her pocket. She doesn't smile, doesn't boast. She just turns back to the intercom and picks up the handset. First Officer Fletcher, what's your current altitude? Owen's voice crackles through. 2000 descending. Good. Level off at 20,000. We're going to need that altitude when we start the approach. Copy level at 20,000. Grant watches his face ashen. Colton Pierce has put his phone away entirely. Claudette Voss sinks into a seat, hands shaking. And for the first time since this nightmare began, the passengers aren't looking at Ivy with suspicion. They're looking at her with hope. In the cockpit, Owen Fletcher is on the radio. His voice is steadier now, but still edged with fear. Andrews approached Transatlantic 447 declaring emergency. Single-engine severe icing pilot incapacitation. Request priority handling to Dover Air Force Base. A pause. Then a calm, authoritative voice responds. Transatlantic 447 Andrews approach. Copy emergency. Squawk 7700. Confirm souls on board and fuel remaining. 312 souls. Fuel is... Owen checks the gauge. 38 minutes. 447 Roger. Who is flying the aircraft? Owen hesitates. First Officer Fletcher, sir, but we have assistance from a passenger. The controller's tone sharpens. Passenger identify. Owen glances at the cabin intercom. Her name is Malone. Ivy Malone. She says she has military experience. Silence. Then, standby 447. Owen's hands tighten on the controls. What does that mean? From the galley, Ivy picks up the intercom handset. Owen, give me the radio. Owen looks at the handset in his own hand. Then, without fully understanding why, he sets it down and switches the frequency to cabin intercom. Ivy's voice comes through clear and strong. Andrew's approach this is Falcon 1. Request frequency 121.5 for authentication. 5 seconds of silence. The entire cabin holds its breath. Then the radio crackles. Falcon 1 Andrew's approach. Authentication confirmed. The voice changes. Less formal, more personal. Commander Malone, is that you? Ivy closes her eyes briefly. When she speaks again, her voice is softer. Affirmative, Nate, it's me. Jesus Christ, Ivy. What are you doing on a civilian flight? Long story. Right now, I need full priority. We're single-engine fuel state, critical severe icing, no weather radar. Captain is incapacitated. First officer is green but capable. I'm talking him through it. Copy all, Falcon. You have absolute priority. All airspace on the East Coast is cleared. Dover is standing by with emergency equipment. We're vectoring you direct. Appreciate it, Nate. Falcon, be advised, General Hayes wants to speak with you. Patching through now. Another pause. Then a new voice. Female. Clipped. Command authority radiating through every syllable. Falcon 1. This is General Victoria Hayes, Pentagon Air Operations Command. Confirm your status. Ivy straightens, even though no one can see her. Old instincts. General, I'm operational. Assisting civilian crew with emergency recovery. Understood. You are hereby granted full tactical command authority under Title 10 Emergency Military Support to Civilian Operations. Dover AFB is yours. We'll have air-sea rescue on standby, but I don't think you'll need it. Thank you, ma'am. Bring them home, Falcon. Roger that. The radio clicks off. The cabin is dead silent. Then slowly the passengers begin to understand what just happened. Grant Hartwell is white as a sheet. Claudette Voss covers her mouth with both hands. Easton Reed stares at the intercom speaker like it just spoke a foreign language. Colton Pierce whispers, "Oh my God." Ronan Sullivan crosses his arms, a grim smile on his face. "Told you." Dr. Kane exhales, shaking her head in disbelief. "Commander Malone, she's not just a pilot. She's a commander." In the cockpit, Owen is staring at the radio, hands trembling. "Ma'am," he says into the intercom voice thick with emotion, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I doubted you." Ivy's response is quiet. "Apology accepted. Now let's get this plane on the ground." Then the hydraulics fail. Not all at once, but close enough. Master caution. Amber lights flood the overhead panel again. Owen's eyes snap to the hydraulic pressure gauges. System A dropping. System B normal. System C fluctuating. "Hydraulic failure," he says, voice rising. "We're losing System A." Ivy keys the intercom. "How much pressure?" 1,500 psi and falling. We're down to manual reversion on the flight controls. In the cabin, passengers hear the change immediately. The control surfaces, ailerons, elevators, rudder start responding sluggishly. The plane feels heavy, unresponsive. Owen fights the controls. "I can't hold altitude. The stick feels like concrete." Ivy's voice is steady. "You're in manual reversion. It's going to take more force. Use trim to help. Small corrections." "I'm trying." The plane yaws left. Owen overcorrects. It swings right. "Damn it." Dr. Kane steps into the cockpit. "What's happening?" "We're losing hydraulic pressure," Owen says through gritted teeth. "The controls are barely responding." In the cabin, Grant Hartwell sees his moment. He stands pointing at the cockpit. "This is it. This is the legal line. She cannot touch those controls without FAA authorization. Owen, if you let her fly this plane, you're violating federal regulations." Claudette stands beside him. He's right. This is a lawsuit waiting to happen. Easton Reed nods. "If she crashes this plane, the FAA will bury all of you." Owen's hands are shaking on the control column. The plane is losing altitude. The single engine is screaming at max thrust, but it's not enough. "I don't know how to do this," he whispers. Then the radio crackles. "Transatlantic 447. This is General Victoria Hayes, Pentagon Air Operations Command." The cabin goes silent. "Falcon 1, you are hereby authorized full command authority under Title 10, United States Code, Section 12401, Emergency Military Support to Civilian Operations. You have legal clearance to assume control of that aircraft." Grant's mouth falls open. Hayes continues, voice like iron. "To all passengers aboard 447, Commander Malone is operating under direct federal authority. Any individual who obstructs her actions will be subject to charges under federal law, including interference with flight crew operations, Comply immediately. Grant stumbles backward. Claudette sinks into her seat, face drained of color. Easton Reed doesn't say a word. Colton Pierce deletes the video from his phone. Ronan Sullivan stands and faces the cabin. You heard the general. Sit down, shut up, and let her work. No one argues. Ivy sets down the intercom handset and walks to the cockpit door. This time, no one stops her. She steps inside. Owen looks at her eyes red with exhaustion and fear. I can't do this. Yes, you can, Ivy says. But I'll help. She takes the left seat, Captain Brennan's seat. Dr. Kane has moved him to a jump seat behind the cockpit, still monitoring his vitals. Ivy's hands move over the controls with the ease of someone who's lived in cockpits her entire adult life. She scans the panel. Hydraulics, fuel, engine temps, electrical. Everything is on the edge, but not over it. Not yet. Owen, she says, voice calm. I need you to handle radio calls and monitor fuel. I'll fly the approach. Owen nods, swallowing hard. Yes, ma'am. Ivy adjusts the trim. Feels the controls respond sluggish but present. She keys the radio. Andrews approach Falcon 1. We're manual reversion single hydraulic system. Request vectors for visual approach runway 20. Falcon 1 Andrews, cleared visual approach runway 20. Winds 210 at 15, gusting 22. Emergency equipment is standing by. Copy cleared visual 20 Falcon 1. Ivy's hands tighten on the control column. She can see the lights of Dover AFB in the distance now. Faint. Flickering through the clouds and rain. But they're there. Almost home, she murmurs. Owen looks at her. Do you really think we can do this? Ivy doesn't hesitate. Yes. Ivy settles into the captain's seat. Her hands move over the controls. Methodical, deliberate, no wasted motion. She adjusts the seat height. The rudder pedals the angle of the control column. Muscle memory. Owen watches her half in awe, half in terror. Ma'am, he says, voice tight. We're down to 28 minutes of fuel, and we're still 60 miles out. Ivy doesn't look at him. Her eyes are scanning the weather radar, what's left of it. The display is mostly static, but there's a pattern. Faint, but readable. A gap in the storm. A column of relatively stable air spiraling down through the center of the convective cell. The eye. Owen, she says, I need you to trust me. I do, ma'am. Good, because I'm about to do something that's never been attempted in a wide-body aircraft. Owen's breath catches. What? Ivy adjusts the throttle on the single remaining engine. We're going to descend through the eye of the storm. The eye. Owen stares at her. Ma'am, that's a fighter maneuver. This is a 777. We don't have the control authority for, we have enough, Ivy says. Barely, but enough. She keys the radio. Andrews approach Falcon 1. We're initiating a non-standard descent profile. Spiral descent through the convective column. Request you clear all traffic below us. A long pause. Then, Falcon 1 Andrews. Say again. Spiral descent Andrews. I'm going to ride the updraft down through the center of the storm. It's the only way we make Dover with the fuel we have left. Another pause. Longer this time. Falcon 1. That maneuver has never been documented in a commercial aircraft. First time for everything, Ivy says. Trust the physics. She doesn't wait for a response. Her left hand pulls the throttle back to idle. Her right hand eases the control column forward. The nose drops. The plane begins to descend. Then Ivy banks left. Smooth. Controlled. 25 degrees. The 777 enters a coordinated spiral, descending at 3,000 feet per minute. In the cabin, passengers gasp. The horizon tilts. The world outside the window spins. Clouds, lightning, darkness, all blurring together in a dizzying spiral. But the ride is smooth. No buffeting, no violent shaking. Just a steady, relentless descent. Owen's eyes are glued to the altimeter. 18,000, 17, 16. Ivy's hands are locked on the controls. Every input is measured. Precise. She's flying by feel now. No autopilot, no flight director. Just her hands, her eyes, and 15 years of experience turning impossible situations into survivable ones. Lightning flashes outside close, so close, the static makes the radios crackle. But the plane holds steady. In the cabin, Ronan Sullivan is standing, one hand braced against the overhead bin. He's watching through the cockpit door, and for the first time in 30 years, he sees something he thought he'd never see again. A combat descent. Textbook. Executed in a civilian aircraft that was never designed to do it. Unbelievable, he whispers. Dr. Kane is beside him, gripping a seat back. What is she doing? She's threading a needle, Ronan says, at 300 miles per hour, in a storm that should have killed us 10 minutes ago. The descent continues. 15,000 feet, 12,000, 10,000. The turbulence begins to ease. The ride smooths out. They're through the worst of it. Ivy levels the wings, pulls the nose up gently. The descent slows. 500 feet per minute, then 200, then level. 9,000 feet. She adjusts the throttle. The single engine spools up, maintaining airspeed. Owen exhales long and shaky. Oh my God, we're alive. Ivy's expression doesn't change. We're not done yet. She keys the radio. Andrews' approach Falcon 1 is level at 9,000. Request final vectors for runway 20. Falcon 1 Andrews, radar contact. You are 12 miles from the field. Turn left, heading 020. Descend and maintain 3,000. You're cleared for the visual approach runway 20. Left 020, descend and maintain 3,000 cleared visual 20 Falcon 1. Ivy banks left again, gentler this time. Through the windshield, the lights of Dover Air Force Base appear, a cluster of white and red against the darkness. Runway lights, approach lights, home. Owen's voice breaks. I can see the runway. So can I, Ivy says. Now let's land this thing. As the plane descends through 5,000 feet, Ivy reaches down and unzips her gray hoodie. She pulls it off, draping it over the back of the seat. Underneath, she's wearing a flight suit. Sage green. Worn but immaculate. Patches on the shoulders and chest. Left shoulder, U.S. Air Force roundel. Right shoulder, 509th Fighter Squadron. Emblem a black falcon on a red shield. Chest patch, name tape. Malone. And below that, embroidered in gold thread, Falcon 1, 217. Combat hours. Owen sees it, and his breath stops. Dr. Kane, standing behind the cockpit, sees it too. Her hand goes to her mouth. Ronan Sullivan steps closer, eyes locked on the patches. 509th, he murmurs. That's the Ghost Squadron. Black Ops, classified missions. The radio crackles. Falcon 1, this is General Victoria Hayes, Pentagon. Ivy keys the mic. Go ahead, General. Falcon. I'm patching this through to the cabin intercom. The passengers deserve to know who's flying them home. Roger that, ma'am. A click. Then Hayes' voice fills the entire aircraft. Ladies and gentlemen, this is General Victoria Hayes, United States Air Force Pentagon, Air Operations Command. The individual currently flying your aircraft is Commander Ivy Malone, call sign Falcon 1. Commander Malone has 17 confirmed emergency recoveries in her career, including Operation Tempest Shield, where she guided 2 C-130 Hercules aircraft through a Category 4 sandstorm over Afghanistan with 0 casualties. The cabin is silent. She has flown combat missions in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. She has logged over 200 hours in the F-22 Raptor. She is one of the most decorated pilots in Air Force history. Grant Hartwell's face has gone white. He's gripping the armrest so hard his knuckles are bloodless. Claudette Voss is staring at the intercom speaker, her mouth open in shock. Easton Reed has sunk into his seat, head in his hands. Colton Pierce fumbles with his phone, deleting the video file. His hands are shaking. Dr. Kane steps fully into the cockpit. "She didn't just fly fighters," she says quietly. "She saved entire squadrons." Ronan nods, eyes bright. "And we tried to kick her off the plane." Hayes continues. "Commander Malone is currently operating under emergency federal authority. She has full command of this aircraft. When you land safely, and you will, you'll owe your lives to her." The transmission ends. Ivy doesn't acknowledge it. Her focus is absolute. 3,000 feet, 2 miles from the runway. She extends the flaps further. Full landing configuration. The gear is already down. 3 green lights. Owen call the checklist. Owen fumbles with a laminated card. Landing checklist. Gear down 3 green. Check. Flaps 30. Set. Speed brakes armed. Armed. "We're ready, ma'am." Ivy nods. "Then let's bring them home." In the cabin, passengers are silent. Some are crying. Others are praying. But no one is doubting. Not anymore. Grant Hartwell sits slumped in his seat, face buried in his hands. Claudette whispers, barely audible, "Oh my God, what have we done?" Colton doesn't answer. He's staring at the seat back in front of him, replaying every word he said, every judgment he made. Easton Reed closes his eyes. And in the cockpit, Ivy Malone flies. As the runway lights grow closer, Ivy's mind flickers. Just for a moment. Afghanistan, 2019, Bagram Airfield. The sandstorm came out of nowhere. 2 F-22 Raptors in her flight had taken hits from surface-to-air missiles. 1 engine out on each bird. Navigation systems fried. Radios failing. The tower's voice crackled through the static. Falcon 1 RTB impossible. Weather below minimums. Recommend eject. We'll recover the pilots. Ivy's hand tightened on the stick. She looked at her wingmen, 2 young pilots, barely past their first deployment. Scared? Bleeding? Barely holding formation. "Negative," she said. "I have 17 souls depending on me. We're going home. Falcon 1, you don't have the fuel. We'll make it." And she did. 40 minutes of hand flying through 0 visibility. Fuel gauges redlined. 1 engine smoking the other, running on fumes. She talked them through it, step by step, altitude by altitude. When they touched down, gear up, sliding on the belly sparks, streaming behind them, there were less than 2 minutes of fuel left in her tanks. All 3 pilots walked away. That was the day she earned Falcon 1. Ivy blinks. The memory fades. She's back in the 777, rain streaking the windshield, runway lights 200 feet below. Owen's voice pulls her back. 500 feet, stable, copy. She knows how to do this. She's done it before, and she'll do it again. The landing is perfect. Ivy flares at 50 feet. The main gear kisses the runway with barely a bump. She deploys the thrust reversers on the single remaining engine, applies the brakes, and brings the 727 to a smooth, controlled stop. Emergency vehicles surround the plane fire trucks, ambulances, Air Force security. But there's no fire. No injuries beyond Captain Brennan's heart attack. Just 312 lives saved. The video goes viral within hours. Colton Pierce had uploaded it to a cloud backup before deleting it from his phone. A friend found it, shared it. Within 24 hours, it has 30 million views. The clip shows Grant Hartwell, face red with fury, shouting, "She doesn't even look like a pilot. Get her out of the cockpit." It shows Claudette Voss saying, "First-class standards are falling." It shows Easton Reed filming, smirking, confident in his judgment. And then it shows Ivy, calm, silent, competent, saving all of them. The backlash is immediate and merciless. Grant Hartwell's real estate firm loses 60% of its clients in 3 weeks. Board members distance themselves. Investors pull out. He's forced to resign. sell his home, downsize to a two-bedroom condo. His wife files for separation. Claudette Voss's spa chain is boycotted. Protests outside every location. Revenue drops 90%. She files for bankruptcy within 6 months. Easton Reed's startup loses its funding. Every investor pulls out after learning he was the guy who tried to stop the pilot from saving 300 people. He's unemployed within a month. Colton Pierce's law firm quietly lets him go. No explanation needed. The FAA and NTSB launch a joint investigation. The findings are damning. Grant Hartwell, Claudette Voss, and Easton Reed are found to have obstructed emergency flight operations and endangered the safety of passengers and crew. All three are permanently banned from commercial air travel for 5 years. Transatlantic Airlines, meanwhile, issues a formal commendation to Ivy Owen, Dr. Kane, and Serenity. The airline revises its standard operating procedures to include a passenger expert assistance protocol, allowing qualified passengers to assist in emergencies under crew supervision. Ivy's actions become a case study in every major aviation training program worldwide. 6 months after the incident, Ivy Malone is promoted to Brigadier General. She's the youngest African-American woman in U.S. Air Force history to achieve that rank. The promotion ceremony is held at the Pentagon. General Hayes pins the star on Ivy's uniform herself. "You didn't just save lives that day," Hayes says. "You redefined what leadership looks like." The Pentagon officially documents the Falcon spiral descent and incorporates it into military training manuals as an emergency procedure for extreme weather conditions. Flight schools around the world begin teaching it. Ivy's technique saves lives in 3 subsequent incidents over the next 2 years. Ivy becomes a symbol. Not just for pilots. For anyone who's ever been underestimated, she's invited to speak at a TED Talk. The title, "Why Competence Has No Color." The talk goes viral. 50 million views in the first month. She writes a memoir, Flying Through Fire. It becomes a bestseller. All proceeds go to a scholarship fund for minority students pursuing careers in aviation. Within 3 years, the fund has sent 200 young people, mostly women and people of color, to flight school. 2 years after the incident, Ivy is walking through Reagan National Airport. She's in civilian clothes, jeans, a simple jacket, incognito. Then she sees him, Grant Hartwell. He's wearing a polo shirt with a car dealership logo. A name tag. He's carrying a cheap rolling suitcase. He's waiting at a bus stop outside the terminal. Their eyes meet. For a moment, Grant freezes. Then he walks over. "Commander Malone," he says quietly. I owe you an apology." Ivy stops, studies him. "You gave me one already," she says. "On the plane. I accepted it." "I know. But I need to say it again." His voice cracks. "I was wrong. About everything. And I've paid for it. Lost my company, my marriage, my reputation." He swallows. "But you lost nothing, because you were never pretending to be something you weren't." Ivy's expression softens just slightly. "Mr. Hartwell," she says, "you taught me something that day." "What's that?" "You reminded me why I do this job. Every person I save, every barrier I break, it's proof that people like you are wrong." Grant nods slowly. "I deserved that." "You did," Ivy says. "But you're still here, still standing. That counts for something." She extends her hand. Grant takes it, gripping it like a lifeline. "Thank you," he whispers. Ivy nods and walks away. Grant watches her go, then turns back to the bus stop. He boards the bus, sits in the back, and for the first time in 2 years, he doesn't feel like his life is over. Just different. In Geneva, the International Civil Aviation Organization convenes a special session. The topic: emergency protocols for qualified civilian assistance. After 3 days of deliberation, the ICAO updates its global standards. Now, any qualified expert pilot, doctor, engineer can be fast-tracked for emergency authority by flight crews with post-incident verification by national aviation authorities. It's called the Malone Protocol. Ivy doesn't attend the session. She's flying a training mission in Nevada, but when she lands and checks her phone, there's a message from General Hayes. They named it after you. Congratulations, Falcon. You changed the world. Ivy reads it, smiles. Then she gets back to work. 6 months later, Pentagon, Air Operations Command Center. Ivy sits at a desk reviewing mission reports. She's in uniform Brigadier General stars gleaming on her shoulders. Her office is small but efficient. A window overlooks the Potomac. On the desk, a photo of her squadron, a model F-22, and her challenge coin sitting in a small glass case. Her phone buzzes. Encrypted call. She picks up. Malone. Falcon 1, this is General Hayes. Ivy sits up straighter. General, we have a situation. Ivy's pulse quickens. Go ahead. Civilian airliner, Boeing 787, hijacked over the Pacific, en route to Tokyo. 238 souls on board. Ivy's jaw tightens. What's the play? No military assets in range. Japanese self-defense forces are scrambling, but they won't get there in time. The hijackers are demanding a course change to North Korea. And the crew, pilot and co-pilot, are alive but restrained. Flight attendants are holding the cabin together. We need someone to talk them down remotely. Guide them through a controlled landing before the hijackers take full control. Ivy stands looking out the window. Far below on the runway at Andrews Air Force Base, an F-22 Raptor is taxiing for takeoff. Afterburners glowing in the twilight. She smiles, faint but real. Send me the frequency, she says. Already done. You're patched in through SATCOM. Call sign is Pacific Air 281. Ivy grabs her headset, pulls up the flight data on her monitor. Altitude, airspeed, fuel state, weather. She's done this 100 times, and she'll do it 100 more. Pacific 281, this is Falcon 1. I'm here to bring you home. On her desk, the challenge coin sits motionless. Then, as if moved by an unseen hand, it shifts slightly, catching the light. The engraved words gleam. Falcon 1, first and last out. Outside, the F-22 lifts off, climbing into the darkening sky. And Ivy Malone, Brigadier General combat pilot legend, does what she was born to do. She flies. Fade to black. More. Audio final moment. Radio crackle. A calm professional voice. Falcon 1, you are cleared for immediate departure.
nichts diese Töne